So tonight's class is the second movement research, and it's called Muscle Memories. And so for each class, I'm creating a theme or a lens through which we'll kind of move, keeping that in mind. And with muscle memories, I wanted to think about memories and also histories and the relationship of memory, like to remember something or to historicize something, and how memories are occurring in this very like personal way and on a very intimate level, and thinking about histories as something more collective and like collective remembrance or something, and kind of moving between the two. And I also want to think about maybe even the act of like unremembering or unlearning or unhistoricizing, or like acknowledging the malleability of memories and of histories, and how we might kind of use movement as a way to explore their porosity. So I want to show a few different artists that I think are working with these concepts, whether that's like personal memories or histories, and also creating narratives from the two. And I think I'll just show like some short clips of their work and maybe talk about it a little bit, and then we'll do a warm up, and then we'll do a couple different exercises that are playing with ideas of muscle memory. And I also want to try out this new one that's a bit more of like with composition, like composing a narrative together. So creating a dance. And yeah, okay, I will share the presentation now. Okay. So we talked about this last class too, but what is movement research? And I kind of wanted to talk about that because I guess I'm also thinking of this class and this series as not so much like a dance class, and more of kind of experimenting with moving the body. And so movement research came about. Does anyone know what it is already?
What movement research is?
Yeah.
Still learning.
I guess, well, it's a term that came around in the 70s in New York, and it was very much about, rather than centering dance practices around choreographies or like very specific practices that depended on certain skills, physical skills, like physical flexibility or coordination, things like this. It was more about getting in tune with what feels good for the individual and like a sense of well-being within the individual. And I think since then it's changed a lot. But for the purposes of this class, I want to think of this term as kind of is exactly what it is, which is like researching movement and researching it through these different lenses. And so the lens today I talked about a little bit, but it's three of them. It's memory, history, and narrative, and how these are kind of going back and forth and weaving with one another. So the first artist that I want to talk about is Okuyopokosili, and she is an artist who deals very much with personal memories. And I will just play this short video, which I think is a really nice introduction to her work. let's see. Hold on a sec. Can y'all hear it?
No.
Okay, I just realized that I have to do one thing. Share sound. Okay, there we go.
I want people to know that when they encounter my work, that they should be comfortable with doubt and some confusion. I'm Okwe Okpokwasili, and I am a choreographer. I work at the intersection of dance, of theater, of art practices, of sound. I want to make a total experience. I use my body to tell the story of Bronx Gothic by a series of quakes and shakes. I call it break body. I go on the ground and I let the joints drop. And, I think about my limbs as fragments to suggest what might sometimes be the turmoil of living in an adolescent girl body. I was inspired to think about how young women, particularly young women in inner cities, grow up, discover themselves as sexual beings. In the piece that I did called Poor People's TV Room, I did start out with this question or concern around practices of embodied protest and thinking about an embodied protest as a performative act. The Bring Back Our Girls movement, which was a movement that was created by the mothers of the young women who were stolen from a school in northern Nigeria, and the Women's War of 1929, where in southeastern Nigeria, women protesting being taxed unfairly by the colonial government, were a springboard for me. All of these were instances of women coming together collectively to address a problem and to seek redress. One piece that I am currently working on is Adapu's Revolt, and it is about a young black girl who refuses to have her hair straightened or in any way changed because she recognizes that this hair, particularly in certain West African cultures, is considered a direct link to a spiritual plane. Say the aspect of my work that I think is crucial and is collaboration. It's critical that I bring people in the room with me who share a sensibility around how to make an complicated energetic space, but may have different ways of trying to get there. I'm hoping to never, ever be satisfied or finished or done. This fellowship gives me more courage, and it gives me more hope that I will never be satisfied and I will never be done.
So she's dealing, as I said, with a lot of more personal memories. And then, do any of y'all know Licia Lewis? Yeah, some heads. So Licia Lewis is often pulling from a lot of text and kind of maybe thinking about this more in like the history side of things. And how things are historicized. And I just wanted to play a short clip of her piece, Water, Will, and Melody, which was part of a trilogy about sadness.
It is surely more natural to conceive of darkness, being originally an idea of terror, as apt as any to fit the scene.
And then the last person that I wanted to show a little bit of is an artist, Wu Tsang, who I think falls more into filmmaking and performance art. But it's interesting because this piece, Julian, that Wu Tsang made is about, so it's like creating a fictional character that exists within like a specific historical moment, but that character is kind of imbued with Wu's like contemporary feelings and presence. So it's kind of this mixing or this collapsing of time and history and memory. And I'll just show a very short clip of this because it's quite a long performance. And I think this is a 20-minute video.
Lava.
It's kind of a fast.
I miss the reader.
I know. Well, no, I think it's going too fast anyway.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad the feeling is not so low.
sad legend. In the pavilion of anguish, will I see you again in storm and rain? Alas, this delicate kerchief here is half stained
How
with
could
blood.
they, with their vulgar minds, understand me?
Spring. A light breeze on my skin brings a foreign fragrance. Truly exquisite beauties have always walked with faces bare. They have no need of powders or perfumes to be called lovely. I imagine the breeze.
Okay, I will pause it there because it's quite a long piece. But I think we can send like a link to all of these people afterwards too. So then I also just wanted to include this quote because this kind of got me thinking about the class in general, and it's from a book that I've often referenced, but I'll just read it out loud. Dominant history teems with the remnants of alternative possibilities, and the job of the subversive intellectual is to trace the lines of the worlds they conjured and left behind. And that's from a book, The Queer Art of Failure by Jack Halberstam. But I want to think about this when we're talking about memory and history and moving through these things. What are these worlds that are left behind? What are these things that remain conjured but unrealized? And how does that space of memory kind of allow those worlds to proliferate and like allow you to envision these different worlds that could exist? And then how through movement can we start to maybe access that? So let's go ahead and warm up.
Okay.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Hi, Amanda.
Hello, my friends.
So we're gonna start with actually a bit of a meditation, another meditation. So go ahead and find a comfortable spot, and actually lie down if you can. I would suggest lying down, but if you can't for whatever reason or you don't have room to, you don't need to for this. So go ahead and close down your eyes. And start to notice the way that your body is coming into contact with the ground. And let's take a couple of deep breaths in. And out. And again. Now just continue with these deep breaths. And notice the sensations at the top of your head. And the sensation of your head resting on the ground. Notice your jaw. Notice your neck. Notice your shoulders and the way they're holding your arms. And notice the way that your forearms and your hands are coming into contact with the ground. And notice your chest.
Let's see.
And breathe into your stomach. And notice your pelvis. And notice your glutes and the way they are coming into contact with the ground. Notice your thighs. Notice your knees. Notice your shins and the way your calves are coming into contact with the ground. Notice your ankles. And notice your feet. And maybe you're feeling a bit of a tingling sensation, maybe like a spongy sensation when you're coming into contact with the floor. Take a couple of deep breaths in and out. Now feel your feet explode from your ankles. And feel your ankles explode from your shins. And feel your shins explode from your knees. And feel your knees explode from your thighs. Now feel your thighs explode from your hips. Now feel your hips explode from your spine and your stomach. And feel your abdomen explode from your chest. And the sensation of explosion so slowly moving up each vertebrae. And feel your chest explode from your shoulders. Feel your hands explode from your wrists. And your wrists explode from your forearms. Feel your forearms explode from your elbows. Now feel your entire arm exploding from your shoulders. And your shoulders and your clavicle exploding from your neck. And feel your neck explode from your head. And feel your jaw explode from your cheeks and your upper head. And feel the crown of your head explode, and this kind of fuzzy feeling, effervescent. And go ahead and start to maybe introduce some small movements into your body. Maybe waking up from this explosion, maybe starting to stretch. Maybe extending your fingers and your toes. Maybe even rolling side to side. Gently massaging your body. And whenever you're ready, you might even start to rise a bit on all fours. Continuing to stretch. Accessing the pleasure of stretching. And maybe also think about, as you're moving, this sensation of floating. And maybe you're slowly starting to rise a little bit more. But continuing to feel this kind of floating sensation. And continuing to find those stretches, those tight feelings that feel so good to move through. Maybe also now start to think of like when you're bringing a certain movement to its peak, when it reaches that peak, how do you collapse it? Once you feel super full in a movement, how do you let it deflate? Or once you feel super tense, how then do you relax? And returning to that kind of floating sensation, or even like if you were moving through some viscous liquid or like through honey. And how can you find tension even in this kind of floating state? Now maybe raise your awareness to the room that you're in and the space that you're in. And continue moving in the way you have been, but start to explore your relationship to that space, to the space that you're currently in. Maybe it's how close you are to a wall or to the ground. Maybe you have a lot of open space to kind of spread out your movement. Maybe you even take a walk around. And how can you extend the sensation of stretching into your body to your space? How can you stretch into your space? How are you coming into contact with the surfaces in your space? Are you touching them or just sensing them? Now, raise your sense of awareness to the screen. And begin to explore the screen as you would your room. How can you stretch into the spaces of your screen? Fill certain areas, empty others. Now go ahead and kind of come back to center. Let your movement flow. And grab a glass of water if you need it. I actually do, so I'll be right back.
Excuse me.
Could you all feel that sense of explosion when I was guiding that? Yeah. Cool. It's kind of cool, or like this kind of feeling of the atomizing or something, slowly like crawling up your body until you're very effervescent or something.
Yeah.
So for the first exercise, I want to think about muscle memory. And I have the definition of muscle memory here. So muscle memory is defined as the ability to repeat a specific muscular movement with improved efficiency and accuracy that is acquired through practice and repetition. So I wanted to, and maybe people can put this in the chat, but thinking about what are things that, where do we experience muscle memory and what kinds of actions? Or what kinds of activities? Also dance. Yeah, I'm curious about these these smaller things too, like something like checking a phone or ways that you, even like the way you interact with your reflection. You know, like, you know, if you ever see people have a mirror face or something, when you catch them looking in the mirror, or you catch them seeing their reflection and you notice this kind of reaction. Duck mirror face, yeah.
I didn't want to look.
I was thinking, so for this one, like what kind of specific sports do people have experience with, kind of very specific to them, muscle memory experiences. Okay, can you share those in the chat if you want to? If you haven't already, because we'll also use some of these to dance with too. Softball. Sigrid, what do you mean by certain letters?
The way you write, you know, like sometimes I try
Wait,
to.
you're muted.
Oh, can you hear
No,
me?
no. Yes.
The way you, you know, you do certain letters, like you just write it, and then.
Wait, you're still muted though.
Wait, what the hell?
No, I think she's not.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
I can hear
Yes.
you.
Oh snap!
Oh,
You're fine. We can hear you.
I didn't have my headphones on.
I know Zoom doesn't do the Bluetooth speaker thing. It's weird. But like when you know you write like letters or like an E like this, I'll try to go back and try to change stuff. Like try to do a different kind of E, and then I.
Hmm. I like that. That was really nice.
I'm sorry, I've been having technical difficulties.
Normal.
But wait, what did you mean by the letter thing? Because I totally missed all of it.
Like you know you write like a E, like whatever. I might have my own issues, but you know I'll write like an E, but then so I'll try to make it conscious. I'm like, oh, I want to do this kind of E actually. So I'll do like to that E, and then I'll just start flowing later when I'm writing with the original E that I'm trying to like.
Mm-hmm.
Shift. So,
Okay, I see what you mean.
Wow.
Yeah.
So maybe we can dance some of these muscle memories. And I think if you don't have experience with what I'm suggesting, that's maybe even cooler because you can just come up with what you think that a memory of it might be like. Heartbreak. Let's start with the way you look in your wallet. So I'm going to play some music a little low, but I'll be guiding it too. So maybe let's think of like, yeah, like how do you move when you, like literally, how do you move when you look in your wallet, your specific wallet? And maybe playing with just what that looks like in a very literal sense. If it's like opening or zipping. And maybe even starting to think like, how can you exaggerate that movement? You know, how can it be something that maybe you aren't just doing with your hands, but maybe you're doing it with your hands and your head or your feet.
Isabel, I'm not sure if the music is supposed to be on, but I can't hear it.
Oh, you can't hear the music?
Mm-mm.
That's because I'm not hearing it.
Thanks.
So maybe, yeah, let's take this movement that we were doing with our hands and see how we can do it with our feet and with our legs. And kind of allow it to get abstracted too. Allow it to get really, I don't know, maybe like more goopy or like nice feeling. Like, it doesn't have to be as mechanical. It can be organic. Now maybe let's go to a different muscle memory and to think about the way that you touch your face. And just touch your face and do it the way that you think you might do it. Now, maybe imagine these motions animating your arms fully. Or how can you exaggerate one touch? Maybe one touch melts into like a full body roll. And now what about playing piano? And how can that movement that exists in your fingers start to come out in other parts of your body? That piano motion is coming to different body parts. wondering, like,
Wow.
what?
I was just so high up in the air because I learned how to jump properly at Rudy's
Just
gym.
now?
No, Rudy
Oh, at
has taught
Rudy's
me,
gym?
yeah, for a few years how to jump on a proper trampoline. So I haven't practiced in a long time, and it just felt so good
Oh, wow.
to jump.
It's kind of weird. I just came up with this idea to do this today, or not today, but this week. And now that we're doing it, I'm realizing it's so strange to try and move from muscle memory intentionally, because the whole point of it is that you kind of go on autopilot and it just kind of happens. So it's a funny thing.
I feel like that's like trying to remember something too. Is that every
Mhm.
time we remember, there's this other stuff happening. So it's kind of counterintuitive, which is interesting.
Could you hear the sound all right?
Like the music.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
Okay,
it's
it wasn't.
conceptually, I understand what you're saying. It does seem like a contradiction, but practically, it's intriguing. I'm going to practice this all week. Every time I do something that is a motion, that is a muscle memory motion, I'm going to let my body keep doing it and doing it and doing it. In fact, you did me a tremendous favor, Isabel. Thank you so much for this, because especially in COVID, a lot of the muscle memory we're not making use of. We're using our bodies in very different ways. So muscle memory is when you're a chef and you want a tool and it's in your hand before you have to think about it, because your hand has already reached and gotten it. It knows where everything is. And as soon as it's done with one thing, it puts it where it will be retrieved easily the next time. So muscle memory is something, as you said, you don't think about it, it just happens. But when you do think about it, there's so much going on that it's not just the muscle memory of what your body is doing, but what did your mind do where was your mind when you first started to develop this muscle memory? And all of those experiences that exist within all these muscle memories. The muscle memory contains some of the best experiences of your life. And the true muscle memory, the ones that function the best because they're connected to our emotions, those true muscle memories contain the story of who we are and how we function when we're functioning at our very best. Like for a dancer, those muscle memories are some of the best experiences of your... Isabel, thank you so much. You've just taken everything that I've experienced and brought it to a place on several levels. One I really need right now, and also on a level of how greatly I can appreciate the people that I'm working with and all the people in my life. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I also like dance lawyers.
Oh yeah, this is a friend's project.
I like that. Dance lawyer. I like that. If all lawyers would dance, we wouldn't have to follow the edict of Shakespeare and kill them.
Perhaps.
Shakespeare said, first thing we have to do is kill all the lawyers. But if all the lawyers were dancing, then there would be no need to feel any animosity to them.
Yeah, if everyone was dancing, we'd have world peace.
It's not, I believe it. If we all danced, there would be peace in the world.
I think definitely more so.
Instead of everybody trying to get a piece of the world, we would just have peace in the world.
What were you saying about, especially with COVID, relying on muscle memory?
Because I think what happened to a lot of people in COVID, first of all, obvious things, like people are not hugging. So this social distancing that currently exists because of COVID has existed for a long time prior to COVID. An example of that is at Ethical Culture pre-COVID, a 4-year-old said, "I miss my mommy." And I said, "Why don't we do the things that you like the most and you could show them to your mommy when she comes?" And that made her very happy. And in the midst of doing her favorite things, she rushed across the floor to hug me. And when her mother came in a room and she saw her mother, She stopped, looked at her mother and said, "Is it okay if I hug Rudy?" I was going to say, if you want to hug someone, you have to fill out a permission slip, and it usually takes 2 or 3 days to get a response. So I think by next week, we'll be able to hug.
Wait, you mean this is because of COVID?
No, no. Because that's the point I'm making is that we have social distancing because of COVID, but we had a psychological social distancing prior to COVID because you cannot hug anybody for the fear of pedophiles. So you cannot touch children in schools. They can't hug you and you can't hug them. They don't want hugging in schools because of the fear of litigation due to anything that might occur. So you have to keep your distance. So there's been a social distancing going on for quite a while.
What state are you in?
New York. Sigrid, can people hug? What state are you in?
I'm in New York. I'm not working with kids right now, so I found it very interesting. I mean, I worked with kids maybe like 10 years ago or something, like teaching dance, and there was no form, but it was interesting.
Well, how that connects to COVID is I picked one thing, hugging, that has been restrained for so long. But in addition to that, there are so many things that we just do when we come into contact with other people. That's the muscle memory. The way you feel with a certain person, it draws your bodies together. And if you're in a really healthy relationships, you dance when you come into contact with each other. There's a way you move your shoulders and your head and your hip. Everything moves when you come into contact, especially with someone that you share love with. So we're not having these social dances of great emotional expression. So just what you're doing now, just the very feel of it, the thought of it, when you were talking and I was having a lucid dream, I was just feeling and moving in the best possible ways. It was bringing so much back to me. It's almost a purge of everything that causes me difficulties was evaporated, and the only thing that left was all the things that make life vibrant and loving and exciting, which is dance.
Are we sharing? Is this a quick share moment? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was interesting that actually I realized that because of COVID in the house, I'm not doing a lot of muscle memory. Like everything's so constricted and like, I don't know about y'all, but like sometimes I'd be like I don't want to cook anymore, and then when I force myself to do something where there's the memory of, oh, this joy through this motion, this simplicity, like actually like, wow, this is changing my whole life. I think that's interesting that like, so quick I just tighten and, because of the limitation on one interaction and structure, it's like, I feel like I have less access to muscle memory of feeling the fluidity, like of day to day, smiling at people. Thank you for sharing.
That's funny you say smiling at people. Or I remember when COVID first started, I felt like there was this moment of like kind of solidarity with people, and I would go on walks around my neighborhood and see people and always like wave or like say hi or smile. And I feel like it's at this point now, and I've been, I think, a little bummed about it, like thinking like I have been maybe creating new muscle memories, but they're memories of isolation or of being kind of more closed off. And it feels like it will be such an interesting process to reemerge and to start to give people hugs again, to start to like kind of remember these movements that felt so natural. And even dancing again, even being able to dance with people.
I feel that way too, Sigrid. I think about that some days, and it's interesting, especially when like I may go through repetitive actions, like doing the same things at specific times during the day, and then I do something that I haven't done in a while. I'm like, wow, I could do that. I used to be able to know how to do that, like even with cooking or something. And it's not so long ago, but it's just because of like sometimes feeling isolated can. Bless you, Rudy.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So sometimes it's interesting when I like remember. But going back to what you said, Rudy, about like trying. No, I don't think you said trying, but what you said reminded me of like, and also with Keaton, what some of the comments you guys made reminded me of when I'm trying to remember something, how that's a distraction from like allowing myself to let it just come. And from my own personal experience with like playing piano, like I don't like to read music, but I like to trust my memory. And sometimes that can just be so inefficient. Like I could just be trying to remember something for so long when I could just read it, but I prefer to like struggle to like allow myself to remember it because I know it's there. And it often comes when I'm not like intensely forcing it to come out. It's like, you know, when you catch yourself like cooking and you're like, oh wow, I just made this. Like you weren't like trying to cook, you were just like cooking. If you know how to cook something.
Not me. So I think maybe let's dance a bit more. And I want to kind of play around with the movement of rewinding. So kind of to like maybe go back to the lens of the class, thinking of like how we construct these narratives around memories or histories, and then maybe taking that point and undoing it or something, like exploring how to move through these movements in a backwards way, in a way that like flips out of the form. And I think, yeah, I'll just put on some music. I won't talk over this one, but we can just kind of play around with that idea of rewinding. And want to do like one last like little short pleasure dance for the end. But before that, does anyone have anything that they want to share? I guess we had our discussion.
Maybe after.
Maybe after. Okay. Okay. Let's do one little groovy one just to bump up the mood. And just a pleasure dance. Let's just have fun. And maybe just keep in mind like the ways that we have been moving over the past couple of hours, and see how they might come out in the ways that we're just dancing for pleasure right now.
A little lower. What? A little lower. I can't hear anybody. Or maybe that's just my head.
Get up. But I got the car, the top down, and everything else. I don't know, man. I don't know. You nigga gotta get up. Hey, man, y'all see me go down the beach a little bit, huh? I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm doing. You nigga gotta get up. Hey, man, y'all see me go down the beach a little bit, huh? I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm doing. You nigga gotta get up. Hey, man, y'all see me go down the beach a little bit, huh? I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm doing. You nigga gotta get up. Hey, man, y'all see me go down the beach a little bit, huh? I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm doing. You nigga gotta get up. But I got the car, the top down, and everything else. I don't know, man. I don't know. You nigga gotta get up. I know that breeze feels nice, boy. You start riding down the highway a little bit. Man, check it out, man. When I go down, get up.
Here I am, man. What you talking about? Fun, get up! Freak, the funk, freak, the funk, funk. Freak, the funk, the funk, the freak, the funk, get up! Freak, the funk, the funk, freak, the funk, Say what? A freak, the funk, freak, the funk, You got to. Freak, the funk, freak, the funk, A freak, the funk, freak, the funk,
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is
Thank you.
incredible.
Thank
Thank you too.
What a pleasure and honor. I must say I haven't been to many, like a Zoom class recently that I felt I could be curious. So thank you. It was great.
Thank you for your curiosity, Sigrid.
Oh yeah.
Great. I mean, there's no rush, and I know usually we go a little over 10 o'clock. If you guys have a few minutes, it'd be cool to talk or reflect on some things. But if you have to go, there's no pressure to stay.
This experience was a relief from COVID. It was like there never was COVID. I felt everyone's presence as if we were all in the same place, feeling the same things. It felt like contact improvisation dance.
But better.
Thank you, Sigrid. Thank you.
I want to share something. I'm very happy as well. Like I agree with this, and you know, it's so interesting because I used to play sports for a really, like my entire life I played sports. And then, you know, the past few years in my adulthood, I really haven't exercised or moved my body. You know, I was kind of burnt out on sports for a long time. So only like recently, in the past few weeks, like I started dancing again, and it's so like incredible. It's like extremely cathartic. Every time I dance, it's like it's almost like as if it's like you don't really know where your body begins or ends and you're just moving. It becomes very like almost like automatic. And it's like I do like something kind of unravels. You know, it's almost like meditative. Like it's something like if I have a certain anxiety or a certain thing that I've been kind of denying or trying to avoid, it's like the whole thing that I've been trying to get away from just like unravels as I'm dancing. And then like by the end of it, I'm like, oh my gosh, like my body's exhausted and my brain's exhausted, but in a really great way. I don't know. It's like, it's kind of incredible. Like the last dance I had to just like sit and meditate because I was like, I don't know if I can move anymore. Like it was too good. So thank you.
I also want to point out the rewind exercise. I've been thinking a lot about our bodies with technology, especially in atmospheres like these, and the hunched over and the fingers of the scrolling and all this muscle memory that goes into technology, but also, you know, shapes our bodies if we're on computers all the time. And so to have an exercise of rewinding, which to me has such a technical synonym or connotation, and to use that with movement was so interesting because I found myself doing a movement and then trying to rewind it and feeling so connected with my body to that, which is something that I always prescribed to being something that video did and that my body I never put those two together. So that was really groundbreaking just on like a perceptual level. So thank you for that.
Wow. That's powerful.
I was getting into that, the rewind, or it feels like sometimes, I think especially with Zoom classes, like at first it can feel difficult, but then you get to this point in it where all of a sudden something is clicking and you're like, wait, I could like do this for so much longer.
Wow.
But it's sometimes difficult to get there. But I was feeling that a lot with the rewinding exercise.
And also how, like when I was doing the pleasure dance, so many of my movements that are back and forth are doing the rewind, and it's like a repeat. That's what repetition is in a certain way. So it feels like, yeah, it just brought so many things that already existed through this different lens. It was really incredible.
On the rewind thing, one thing I was really entranced by was like the negotiation of trying to be realistic about like weight placement and momentum, you know, so like trying to reverse, you know, at the same and speed. So when you try to reverse at the same speed, you know, you're actually all of a sudden engaging like completely oppositional muscles. You're no longer pushing into the floor to stand up. You are like grappling, you know, with your weight from your like torso and your pelvis down. And yeah, it was like kind of like OCD, like entranced by it. I was like, I'm about to just be here. Like we could do this all night. Like trying to find different quizzes for myself to be like, what is real? Like, oh, okay, so you know, it was really that was fun, and I feel like there's a lot of ways to play with that too, because that is, you know, the internal. That's my internal like physical perspective, but I think you know there's a lot there to play with in terms of creating narrative and manipulating that and playing in these different like awarenesses of whether you're being in yourself or you're sitting beside yourself looking in, you know, these kinds of things. So that was cool.
You know, as I listen to everyone, I realize that we all danced at the beginning of our lives. You couldn't stop us. There was nothing you could do that could change the way we felt about ourselves and the movements that were produced within those feelings. Nothing could alter that. And when you return to that state, you have then become immune from all the things that distract you and diminish you. That this natural state of being, this natural state of dance, is an expression of who you are, and how you're relating to your environment, how you're relating to other people. To physically express the feelings that you have is one of the healthiest and most important things that we do if we want to mature, if we want to become more powerful as we're maturing. And it is the most restrained and restricted activity in our current culture. Dance has become something that someone decides who is capable, who is good, who is to be applauded, who is to be funded, who is to be, there's very little opportunity anymore for people just to dance because dance is life, to do it because that's the way you maintain your integrity. And there are people who know this and will never stop, but they're rare. You don't see them that often. If you walk around the street in an average day, you won't see anyone. You won't see anyone dancing in the streets. Most people are not alert enough to see it, even if it happens in front of them. They're just not interested. The people who do it are not interesting to them. They would seem awkward, or they might even, to some people, seem mentally unbalanced. So the people who function in the healthiest way are the ones who would be most ignored. So this evening is a reminder, more than a reminder, it is a reliving and a re-experiencing of that dance that is the dance of your life.
Remember to dance in the streets.
What, Isabel?
Oh, just remember to dance in the streets.
You're so faint I can't hear you anymore.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Oh. Oh, I was just saying that we should remember to dance in the streets.
Absolutely.
I'm pretty good at it sometimes.
Absolutely. We used to, years ago, I used to go with a group of friends and we start dancing in Central Park and dance among people. And when we did it, people would start to dance. Mm-hmm. It's contagious. It's almost automatic.
There's a line, I don't know what it's from, but I just remember that I like reappropriated it. Anyways, but it was like the feeling you get when you see someone dancing on the side of the street. You know, it's like exactly what you guys are saying. It's like you see that and you like if they're half, even if someone's like half dancing, I love half dancing. Then you kind of are like, I'm trying to vibe, like I'm trying to do that. You know, it's like you need to do that. I think that's like the spirit muscle memory that we all have.
And that feeling
Wow.
that someone, that when you do something that affirms you and everyone else you come into contact with, the general response to that is to insult, antagonize, diminish. That's the nature of the culture that we're living in. And dance reveals that. But the reality is, in most cases, when someone dances, it evokes that human connection. And people do not intimidate, ridicule. But even the children learn at a very early age not to move unless somebody supports them in their movement, tells them that they're good, gives them permission to do it. How absurd to have to get permission. It's like getting permission to breathe or to swallow, to blink your eye. It's an absurd circumstance. And the children that are most free, even those children, they attempt to restrain them. In the gym, if a 3-year-old comes in the room and completely expresses themselves, a good mother will feel that her child is doing something that they shouldn't be doing and try to restrain the child. And when you let the good mother have the pleasure of her child's fully enjoying life, that mother will then love you like you are a family member. And in effect, you are a family member. And another aspect of that is that my behavior is very well accepted because of the circumstances that I work in. But if outside of those circumstances it is not accepted, it makes people uncomfortable. They don't want to see someone that free because that makes them feel like they're not in control. And people compete to be in control in our culture. So once you feel you're not in control, you have to do something to undermine the other person, to take attention away from them, because you're not getting all the attention and you can't decide what's going to happen, how it's going to happen. But one of the children who came in to the gym and fully expressed himself, when he left, his mother took him home and then came back to the gym to hug me and tell me how much this experience meant to her. That's the way I behave. I don't hold anything back. I let people know what I'm feeling as I'm feeling it. And that's the natural state of being. Most people don't do that. But this mother did. She felt the need to come back and make sure that this was acknowledged and fully supported. That's that's life lived well. When people, and that's part of dance. When you acknowledge your feelings and you're fully supported in those feelings, that is where people come together. That's where we make our connections. And that is dance makes it obvious. Singing and dancing make it obvious. That takes us out of what can I get from you, what can I do to you, which is the nature of a highly competitive culture, and what can we do together so that our lives are better together than they are when we're apart.
I think there's so many things to say about expression. Can you guys hear me? But I'll save that for another time. But something I did want to add about the memory, or going back, like the reverse exercise. I just had a moment where I had like deja vu because what I did was practice memory by moving backwards from where I was when we started that exercise to all of the exercises before that. Like when we were and I was trying to figure out, I stood up for a minute because I remember the last thing I was doing was practicing playing piano through muscle memory. And I'm like, what was the thing before that? What was the exercise? What was the muscle memory we had to practice before that? So I went to the wallet, and then I'm taking out my wallet. I'm like, wait a second, we were touching our faces. And it came to me without thinking. So you see, like, it's so practical to retrace your steps. You start remembering things like it's like, you know, when people, it's like, I mean, that's why I think it's really practical when people say, like, retrace your steps. Like, if you lose something, like, what else is there? What else could be more practical? Like getting mad that you lost your keys? like giving up.
Right. Your body remembers where you've been. Your body.
Yeah. Right. And there was a moment where my body remembered something that my mind didn't have to. And I had a feeling of deja vu. Like, that's the best way I could explain it. I'm not sure if it was, but that's the closest. I remembered. I'll remember this night too. Thank you guys.
When is the next, this is my first time with this series. When is the next one of these? Is this the last one?
Well, thank you for joining, Kian, for the first time.
Very excited.
We're doing it once a month. So at the end
Isabel,
of
Isabel, it's very difficult to hear you. Maybe it's your microphone is somewhere else.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit.
Oh, once a month. So at the end of next month.
Okay. Great.
The last Thursday of each month.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Wonderful.
Yeah, guys, once again, thank you for joining, and thank you, Isabel, for being a great host and guide into practicing muscle memories tonight. That's I got a lot to process here. And it's so nice to meet you, see new faces, see some beautiful people here moving and talking and dancing. It's so amazing. Thank you guys. If anybody would like, I can, if you want, I'll put in my email address for Met4. And if you'd like to be put on like the mailing list to get like updates on events, please just send me an email or just let me know. We're also on Instagram. I can send that if you guys see in the chat. Yeah, so if anybody also would like to host an event or a class of some sort, reach out to me too. It's open always, and we're welcome new guests and new ideas. It's very spontaneous. So it's really special to share everything with you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Isabel.
Thank you, Isabel.
Thank you, Isabel.
Everyone.
Okay, guys, enjoy the rest of your night. Love you.
Love you. Good night, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye. Take care. Nice to see every strangers. Friends.